I understand we're going to talk about fertilizers, calculations. There's math involved?
Yes, there's math involved.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, but it's not hard math.
It's not hard math. Okay.
Not hard
Well,
math.
it's not
This
hard
is pretty
math.
easy. It's
I think I can get it.
Yeah, not complex algebra or anything like
Okay.
that.
We're good deal.
So,
Good deal.
yeah. So when you're trying to figure out if you need to fertilize your lawn,
Okay.
first thing to do, always soil test.
Yes.
So get the soil test, find out what your soil really needs.
Okay.
It may turn out it doesn't need nearly as much as you think it does.
That's true.
So there are three major parts of soil analysis, you could say, the three macronutrients. You have nitrogen, you have potassium, and you have phosphorus.
Good.
Nitrogen, often in a soil test, is not tested for because it is very transient in the soil. And by the time you get your soil test results back, the nitrogen is totally different than what you sent.
That's right. That's right.
So yeah, it comes quickly, it goes quickly. So
good.
you don't really need to worry about that.
Yeah.
You do need to side dress and give plants nitrogen. That promotes green leaves, but you don't have to worry too much about testing for it. So that leaves you with potassium and phosphorus. And those last a lot longer in the soil. And so that's what you're really concerned about with your soil test is those two, in addition to pH and some of your micronutrients. But those two are the ones we're really going to talk about.
I would agree.
So let's go back to nitrogen real quick. For nitrogen, to figure out how much nitrogen you need, recommend going to your local extension service and finding out when they recommend that you put nitrogen on this particular plant every year. And you can do that. You can Google, for instance, here in Tennessee. I would Google Tennessee extension, when to side dress corn, or something like that. And that way I'll get a recommendation from extension in my state. And that'll come up high on the results.
Exactly right.
Yep. So when you get your soil test back, you have a recommendation that you should put down, let's say, 1 pound of 13-13-13 per 100 square feet. Okay, well, you go check your garage and you find out you don't have any 13-13-13. Instead, you have something else. So what we're going to do is talk about how to convert that into what the recommendation says. So some of the typical fertilizers that you'll find that people will have, you have ammonium nitrate, which is 3400. So the first number is nitrogen, then you have then you have phosphorus, and then you have potassium. Those are the three numbers. So the ammonium nitrate has 34% nitrogen, 0 of the other two. Okay. You have the balanced fertilizers that you can find at your big box stores. So you have 888 or 10-10-10 or 13-13-13. Those are the most common ones that you find. You have equal parts of each. So that means 888, you have 8% nitrogen, 8% potassium, 8% phosphorus.
All right, following that.
So you also have triple superphosphate, which is 0.460. So that is all phosphorus, roughly half by weight. You also have lawn fertilizers. You can use lawn fertilizers. Be very careful if you do that it does not have any herbicides in it.
Yes. That is good.
But your typical lawn fertilizer is about 3004-ish, and depending on which one you get, it could be different. You also have some organic fertilizers. So you have blood meal is 1310. Bone meal is 3150. And potassium sulfate is 0050. That one may or may not be organic. It depends on the process it was created by. Some are organic and some are not. Potassium sulfate. So let's get to the math.
Oh boy.
So let's say that the soil test recommends 1 pound of 10-10-10 per 100 square feet. Okay. But you go to your garage, you find out you only have 13-13-13. Don't go to the store and buy another bag of 10-10-10. You don't need to. We can just do the conversions. So what you do is you do what is recommended divided by what you have. So 13-13-13 is what you have, 10-10-10 is what was recommended, so you do 10 divided by 13. So instead of 1 pound of 10-10-10 in 100 square feet, you put down 0.77 pounds, about 3/4 of a pound, of 13-13-13. You get the exact same value, exact same nutrients, and you don't need to go buy another bag of fertilizer. This is going to sit in your garage.
That's right.
So a little more difficult is if you have the partial fertilizers or the incomplete fertilizers that only have something in one number.
Gotcha.
That happens a lot in the organic fertilizers. So for instance, let's take the same thing. It recommends 1 pound of 10-10-10 per 100 square feet. And so we need 10 of nitrogen. Well, blood meal is 1310. Okay, so you're going to need 10 divided by 13 pounds of blood meal, and that comes out to 0.77 pounds, to have the same amount of nitrogen. You're also going to have just a tiny bit of phosphorus in there, because there's a 1.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay.
So now we need to add phosphorus to our mixture to get that balanced fertilizer. So we can add bone meal. It is 315.0. So you'll do 10 divided by 15, or 2/3 of a pound, 0.66 pounds, to have the same amount of phosphorus. Now we're going to get a little bit of nitrogen in there as well, because there was a 3 in the nitrogen position, but that's probably close enough. You don't really need to worry about the nitrogen being exactly perfect. If you wanted to, you could pull back a little bit on the blood meal and let it be covered by the bone meal. But I wouldn't worry about it. It's not really enough to matter.
Yeah. I don't think it makes that much difference with that.
Yep. So then we're going to use potassium sulfate for the third number. And once again, you're going to have 10 divided by 50. That gives you 0.2 pounds of that. So if you spread that 3/4 of a pound of blood meal, 2/3 of a pound of bone meal, and 0.2 pounds or 1/5 of a pound of the potassium sulfate, you're going to end up with the same as a 10-10-10 fertilizer.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep. And that's all organic.
It's organic.
Just requires a little bit of mixing in there.
Just a little bit more. Okay.
Yep. So the potassium especially stays in the soil for a very, very, very long time. There's lots of potassium in the soil, and it actually gets there because there's a lot of potassium that plants can't use that is in the soil. As the soil slowly gets weathered and you have some microbial action, that potassium becomes available to the plant. So don't go dumping potassium out on your ground unless you do a soil test.
Highly recommended.
Yes, and when the soil test, if you get it through an extension service or some private labs, they will have recommendations. They'll say, put out this much for 2 years or for 3 years. And then at that point you want to retest because you may have sufficient at that point. You don't want too much. If you start to get too much, your plants start doing weird things. And you can't get it out of the soil.
That's the key thing. Yeah, you can't get it out if you put too much in. That's key. Okay.
So for mid-season fertilizers, you got a side dress. So it's going to be, a lot of times those recommendations are going to be 3400. Put out, 2 pounds of 3400 per 100-foot a row, or whatever it is. Once again, you can do the same math. It is what is recommended divided by what you have. And so you can use blood meal for that. You can use 3400. You could do 3004, which is your lawn fertilizer. Once again, make sure it doesn't contain any pesticides or herbicides in it. So that is how you do the math to get from the recommendation to what you have, or from the recommendation to your organic fertilizers.
That's good.
Yeah.
I think it's easy to follow.
Yeah, it's not too hard. Just remember, yes, it is recommended divided by what you have. Yeah.
That's easy to follow, Peter.
Yep.
That's pretty good. So even I can do that calculation. Pretty good. So thank you, Peter. We appreciate that.
For sure.